All right, guys. Um, so I want to talk about, if you're sourcing products, and you are um interested in making repairs and reselling, if that's the gig you've got going on, I want to talk about that. Or if that's a gig that you're interested in, I want to talk about that. Some things to consider, maybe some of the high points, low points. I don't want to be like negative about it, but I'm on a little drive coming back from the pier between this little rain break. I wanted to take some photos and video footage of the certain area at the pier, so I went out to get some vitamin D from the sun and some fresh air before the rain starts again in another couple hours or hour or so. So let's talk about it. So if you're trying to make a small business or side hustle or kind of a side gig, extra income, any income, you really need to know the product well. You need to know the customer well. Now, the easiest way to think about these things, in my own personal opinion, the easiest way for me to kind of like learn and then transfer over is to take something that I know. Even if it's not exactly what I'm trying to sell or repair, take something that I know, so something that I know well, and kind of use that model as like an approach to whatever it is that you're selling, buying, selling, repairing, whatever it is that the product is, the niche is that you're kind of working with, or gonna be working with. So the way I look at it is, take something you know. So something I know very well. Let me think of something I know that I could repair, or understand the repairs behind it very well. I've been playing guitar since I was in about 7th grade, 8th grade. I don't know. I got a guitar when I was 10 years old, so I had access to my own since that age. But I think I started playing at like this mission trip when I was in 7th or 8th grade in Mexico, in this little village, when I saw other kids my age doing it, and I was like, they're really good. And I learned this, Give Me One Reason by Tracy Chapman, and Tears in Heaven by Eric Clapton, and Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Those were like the first, I guess, like 3 songs I kind of learned on guitar. So that kind of dates me. That kind of shows that's my age, the age that I am. Those songs were kind of like new when I was learning to play guitar. I would say, other than the actual like wood of the guitar, like if somebody busted a hole in the back of my acoustic guitar, I would not know how to like make the back of a guitar and like replace it. But all the hardware pieces, even if it's like an acoustic electric, just I don't think I'm not that skilled with soldering. I understand it, and I understand basic electronics enough to kind of dabble, but I would not say that I know how to like rebuild or totally repair something that requires soldering. But I could technically do that. Technically, I kind of understand the theory behind it, and I would know what needed to be done. It's just physically the skills. I don't have those physical skills very well with soldering. Like, I know how to do it, but I'm really not good at like making the contacts like good enough that they're they're too big of globs, basically, is what is my issue with soldering. It's not that I don't, so I would say I don't know how to do it, even though I kind of understand how to do it. Like, my technique is really bad, so I wouldn't trust myself to like solder something like that. I solder my own stuff and deal with the consequences, but I wouldn't trust myself for someone to send me their guitar. But if it was like somebody who didn't know anything and they were like, "Can you fix this for me? Put on the strings. Can you, part of the bridge fell off. And do you know where this piece goes? Like, there aren't that many hardware pieces, and I'm familiar with guitars, and I've played guitars for like ages, and I've owned guitars for like ages. And so I would be comfortable doing that. I would be comfortable doing that. And with other similar instruments, I'm pretty comfortable with them. Even if I don't play them, I'm pretty comfortable with them. It's just like when it comes to the wood, I can't like replace wood pieces or like adjust the neck, so it's like the action and all that, like the rod inside the neck, and like I don't really want to adjust that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not trying to like snap the neck of my guitar or something, but I could figure that out. So one thing I would say is, kind of that paying attention to kind of what you do know, and kind of think about, okay, what are the problems that come up? What are common problems that beginners have with guitars? They don't know how to restring a guitar. They don't know how to tune it. It might keep coming out of tune, and they don't understand why. They might, you know, have parts that are faulty pieces, or there might be, I mean, I don't know, this isn't like the most stellar example, but you got to think about it. Like, when you own something, you kind of know what the problems are with those products, even if it's not like one specific, like Fender or Yamaha, like a specific brand. Like, just in general, you're going to know what the problems are because you have one, you own one, you've used one, and you can kind of understand the repair mindset between certain things. When you're a beginner, when you're a new user, the problems that you have with products that are maybe lower end versus higher end products, like, what's the difference between them? What are the problems that keep coming up? So when you're going into repairing something, if it's in a niche or a type of product that you're not too familiar with, those are the types of things you have to learn, the differences between, especially if you're not only working on like one single model. Like I mentioned before, I used to work on iPhone 6. The 6 is different from like 6S, from the 5, from the 4. They're all different from one another, at least slightly. There's a lot of overlap, but if I had chosen to work on all these different types of phones, I would have had to learn all the ins and outs of all those things. So that's why I chose one model, one type, and just, stuck with that. Because to me, it made sense. I was able to do it. It was somewhat easier. I was able to just like follow a method and just repeat, and then I got better and better and better. That's how I learned about, what other problems and issues were coming up for people, even with the phones being repaired. It's like, okay, now there's this issue with the fingerprint, or like there was this weird like little scammy thing going around where people were saying that you could get a phone that is password protected and get some weird software to wipe it out and stuff. Like, yes, you kind of technically sort of could do that, but the issue was you'd have to reset the phone every time. Like, you could do that and get into the phone, but the second the home screen would go off, when you'd have to try to get back into it to like put the passcode in again, and this is before Face ID, so when you'd have to try to get back into it to try to put the passcode in again, you'd have to go through that whole process again with like plugging it into the software, or like putting in this like certain type of SIM card reader, and like doing all this kind of like hardware software wiping stuff. So it's basically you'd have to restart every time. So like, yes, you could do it, but it wasn't like a consistent fix unless you really wanted to like keep doing it every time you wanted to open your phone, and now you're like, now you have to do it every single time. So a it wasn't really able to reset it in a way that people could use it. And so there were lies going around where people were like, oh, look, it works, it works. It's like, yeah, you could show me that it works, but shut the phone off and, turn it off and get back in through the home screen and, see if you can put the pin back in again and make it work. It wouldn't work. So people could show you like a one-time example on a video and be like, oh, it works, so buy my product, buy this thing. And people were buying all these little things because they were trying to purchase and resell phones that people couldn't unlock because they didn't have the pin. You got to ask yourself, why doesn't someone have the pin? Maybe it's from a deceased person, maybe it's from, somebody gave you a phone for free and your family and it wasn't stolen, but they never gave you the passcode and they don't remember it. Maybe it's stolen, so of course you wouldn't have the pin. And that was, basically the whole reason that Apple made it that way, is so that you could resist stealing them. It's like, well, you can't use it again once you steal it. Or the only way you can use it is to do that method of like resetting it every time the home screen gets shut off. And who wants to do that? Like, usually you just want to put in your code and work with it. You don't want to do this whole waiting thing. Who wants to do all this like waiting thing? So those are just some examples, but I would say if you're trying to start something for yourself, you kind of need to know all of that. You're gonna need to know all those ins and outs. That's why it does help to, find, a hustle, find a gig, within, some kind of realm that you know and you understand. Because if you don't know it or understand it, you're going to start, noticing and coming up with and learning about and experiencing all of these different problems. So it does help to work with something that either you know very well and you can just learn more about it, that'll be faster, or something that you're interested in, very deeply interested in, so that you can learn it faster and it's going to feel better. I wouldn't recommend just going with like whatever's trendy. Like all this AI stuff, like that's one thing that's coming up where people are like, oh, you can do this with AI and make like these chat bots and sell them, or do this and do that and sell it. And it's like, well, if you're not into like making chat bots and learning how to like do that, or using AI and being in this kind of like software like that, and if you're not interested in any of that kind of stuff, it's like every day you go into it, it's gonna be like, ugh. And then when you're talking about people and trying to sell it and trying to like, link all this social media, making content about it, you're not going to like it. You're not going to want to do any of that. You're going to be like, I don't want to talk about chat bots. I don't want to talk about the process. I don't want to upload, and I don't want to like edit, and I don't want to, write. I don't want to write about it. I don't want to make video content about it. I don't want to make any content about it. I don't even want to do it. And then you're, just because it's trendy, that's why people don't completely follow through with things sometimes. They're like, I want a business, and so then they go with something that they think is trendy because it's going to make money fast, supposedly, but it's like, it's really going to be hard to keep up with something that you either don't have a background in, or both don't have a background in and really couldn't care less about. um like, you don't have to have a background. Like, you can learn anything. You can learn how to make chatbots. You can learn, how to build an iPhone from scratch if you really wanted to do that. You could learn how to like build an instrument and make your own guitars. You can learn how to do all that kind of stuff. But it's going to be hard if you don't like it. If you don't like what you're doing and you're just doing it for the financial aspect. I mean, you can do that, but you have to ask yourself, like, is that what I want to do? Do I see myself spending a year doing this, more than a year doing this, building it up, learning all these things? Because when you have to troubleshoot, and when the problems arise, and when there's issues that come up, it's going to make it even more complicated. When YouTube changes their algorithm, and now, even if you were monetized and now you're not, getting the viewership, and you don't like making short form content, but now you have to, and you don't like doing the thumbnails and all this, like all the stuff that you already don't like doing is going to be so much more annoying because you have like zero passion behind what you're trying to do. So it helps to either work with something you know and like. That's the best case scenario, something you know and you like. Um when you're working with repairs. It's really hard to give examples, but right now I would say the best way, not the best, but one of the ways to see if what you're trying to work on is maybe worth it for you, um, is see what is reselling that's like refurbished or repaired on eBay. You got to look at the auctions and see who's actually bidding on them. See what's getting actually bidded on and what actually sold. Don't look at the buy now, because that means that somebody just posted it and they want someone to buy it. That doesn't mean that someone's purchased it. You can kind of look at those different accounts and see how much they've sold of certain types of items. That's worthwhile data to know, but it's going to be hard, if you really just don't know. Um, if you really just don't if you really don't know, it's going to be harder. If you don't know anything, you're going to have to learn everything from scratch. I'm not trying to discourage people. I'm just saying if you have to learn every single thing from scratch, if you're not interested in it, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. And I'm not saying people can't do hard things, but trying to do something difficult when you don't have to, when you don't have to like spend all your time and energy on something you're not passionate about. Like, I might be passionate about music and instruments. I might not be passionate about all instruments, but I might be passionate about people having access to instruments, writing their own music. So for me, maybe if I couldn't repair guitars because they're big, they're bulky, even though I know a lot about them, they're big, they're bulky. If I think about something that I want to have, you know, customers having worldwide access, or at least like countrywide national access to being able to purchase what I'm fixing and selling, guitars are good locally because people can come to you or you can go to them. But they're not good shipping. I mean, if you want to spend that money with the shipping, but that's an extra barrier. It's not. I don't want to discourage people. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad, but it's almost like the difference between shipping a laptop and shipping a desktop. It's like, choose something small, something that's easy to ship. Uh, it's easier for you. It's easier with the shipping situation. Some, you know, you're gonna have to get a bunch of boxes and stuff. Like, one thing about when you're purchasing things and reselling them, though, you know, if you're purchasing them online, one cool thing is that you will likely have access to those boxes. Um, you can reuse the same boxes. It might not look super pretty, but just make sure they're like in good condition and don't have all the barcodes from all the other shipping on them and stuff, so they definitely get to the right spot and it's not just coming back to you or going back to where you purchased it from. You got to make sure it's in good condition and it's not like falling apart, and you got to put the tape on properly and secure the items and make sure they're not going to break. But you can learn a lot about what type of boxes to get, like how to package the items, just from seeing how other companies package it. And then once you fix it and you're selling it to the next person, just resell it in the same box with the same packaging. I mean, saves you time, saves you money, like that's one less cost for like shipping supplies that you have to purchase, especially if it's in good condition. I mean, I've done that multiple times. Um if you buy a lot of Amazon Prime stuff, keep the boxes. It might sound stupid, but keep the boxes, you know. They're just as good as any box. I mean, like once you start, getting more sales and stuff, you probably don't want to keep using Amazon boxes and stuff. You might want to look a little more professional. But in the early phases, when you're just like selling stuff off OfferUp or eBay or whatever, it's like just use whatever boxes you have that are good condition and good quality. Just get the job done, and don't go overboard trying to like wear yourself out in places that don't need to be worn out. But I really would recommend, things that you can ship cheaply or small or something compact. I wouldn't probably want to go as big as a guitar or couches and things like that. But there is something nice to dealing in cash as well. I mean, you have it right away. You don't have to deal with all these weird payment gateways. You can use a card like Novo for business to kind of keep things organized and deposit your money onto there and make sure everything's labeled properly, so everything that goes in and out is through a specific account. I think, yeah, Novo for business is free. Um that would kind of be my 2 cents on, you know, repairing and reselling. I also want to talk about, if you're growing something and selling, but repairing and reselling is, or if you're creating something and selling it, um, selling something you make or selling something you uh, grow or create or whatever it may be. Um, I've got to get more details together on that, but that's what I would say when it comes to, some of this other stuff. Those are things that I think, you know I'm trying to compare, the educational information I'm putting out there to what all these like fake guru, you know these fake guru get rich quick schemy people are saying on the internet. You really gotta. I feel like I say it every time. You gotta weed through these people because they get you hyped up, and then it's like you try it, and then you get discouraged, and you're like, it didn't work. I tried this drop shipping thing, and it didn't work. I tried this other thing, and it didn't work. And it's like you can try other stuff that might work. You might not. Maybe drop shipping isn't your thing because you've got to put the money into the ads. You've got to make ads. You've got to source products. You've got to find a product. You've got to wait if you're getting it from China and wait 2 weeks to 30 days for it to get to you. You've got these little risks involved where you're like, now I need like an Amazon warehouse or like all these things where it's like, when you deal with like reselling, you don't really have that factor. The factor that you do have with reselling, the risk is you're buying something that you can't resell at a profit. But if you do your research and you work slowly, don't go out and buy like $5,000 worth of something if you've never sold one of them before. You know, you want to make sure that you're selling stuff that's like, okay, like this sells, that sells. Um, One easy way to kind of know what sells, honestly, is just posting stuff up online that you have that you don't need. you know Maybe there's a season for stuff, maybe there's stuff that's popular. I recently sold this, what was it called? I don't remember the company's name, but it's a board that like you balance on it. It's like one of those balance boards. I practice it for board sports, because like I'm not always out in the ocean, I'm not always out in the mountains. um but I'm home more than that, so I was like, let me just get this board to like practice my balance. It's good for snowboarding, skimboarding, things like that. Things that I, partake in, and surfing, other like all kinds of sports that people are interested in, or just practicing your balance at home just for the sake of practicing it. Um, but you know, people wanted that, and I was like, oh, like how's this thing something that people want? It was sitting in the corner because I stopped using it, and I was like, let me unload some of this stuff because like I need some space. And I just like getting rid of stuff when I'm not using it. I'm like, it's in good condition. I keep all the original parts for stuff when I buy it. So I had that weird little bracelet that came with it. I had like the little like business cards that came with it and the QR code poster that had the instructions on it and like all the kind of stuff that makes it more valuable. I didn't have the original box or anything. I mean, I might have it. I think I threw it out, but um keep stuff. You know what I mean? Keep stuff and keep it in good condition. And when you find yourself not using it, you can resell it. And I didn't sell it at a profit, but I got extra money that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't sold it. It was worth more to me to have that amount of money than it was for me to not have the money and to have the item that I wasn't going to use anytime soon. Um, do that though. Do that. Sell stuff, and then you're like, oh, people want this. And, people were coming to me saying, oh, like, yours is the best priced one, or I wanted to buy it at Black Friday and then I missed out and I wish I would have because it was way cheaper than. I think I bought this thing for 120 bucks. I think it's over 120 bucks now because I bought it like maybe over a year ago, and now it's more than what I paid for it, and like a brand new one is. And so for me to sell it, at a loss even to myself, I was like, whatever, it's used, and I didn't really mind selling it. I wasn't trying to make a profit off of it, but now I know, if I wanted to sell something, that's something that I could find. If I could find those things for cheap and resell them, they would sell because people wanted them right away. People were like trying to come from all parts of LA to come pick it up, and it was just the scheduling. I was like first come first serve. I'm not going to be waiting around for all these people who keep wanting to like reschedule. It's like I'm kind of busy. I don't really want to keep rescheduling with all these people. But I was able to schedule with people to, and someone came and picked it up, and he was explaining, like he really wanted one. Some lady really wanted it too. A lot of people were really interested in it, and I had no idea. I just was randomly posting up stuff that I had in my house that I was trying to unload at the end of the year, to like just sell stuff and get it out of the house. And it was kind of an interesting, kind of funny thing. Um, I mean, I used the money for that to kind of buy some other things that I was gonna actually fix and repair and resell for a profit. But um, I didn't really need or want that item anymore. But that's one way to kind of like research. You're like, okay, like if I had 5 of these right now, I could have sold them to 5 people already. Now I don't know where to get them cheaper, where I could sell them at a profit. You might be able to find stuff at used sports stores, but you know, if it's over 120 bucks new, let's say it's 160 bucks new now, which I don't really know the price, but let's just use that number for example. If it's 160 bucks new now, if I could even find it for like 100 bucks or 80 bucks or 50 bucks, I'd be able to resell it probably for quite a bit more. And people might want it. Um, I don't know what the max price is that people are willing to pay for that type of product, but I know the price that I sold it at, people were willing to pay that. At least 5 people were willing. And if I would have had the time to wait to schedule with all these people who wanted to keep rescheduling, if I had 5 items, I could have sold each one of them 5 by now, or each one of them 1 by now, and I would have sold 5 by now. I'm pretty sure because they were all very interested. It's just their schedules weren't lining up. Um, Somebody wanted to come at like 10 p.m. and I was like, I can't do that. And somebody else like wanted to do it on the weekend, and I was like, I really try not to like have my weekends too busy, and but I was willing to meet on the weekend, and then somebody else was like, I'll come today, and I was like, fine, let's just do it today. Like I don't, I was kind of getting a little bothered with all the back and forth with all these people, but that's one way to test, what will people buy. I sold some Bluetooth earbuds, like, so I know that brand is something people will buy, but it was only one person versus 5 people that were talking to me about this one item that I had no clue that it was such a popular thing that people wanted. Now to find the same brand, to find the same type, you know, um, might be a little bit different, but there is a niche, for people who want certain types of stuff. There is kind of a niche with board sports, with different types of stuff, beginning of the year, fitness, things that people want to do indoors. I'm one of those people, I like solo sports. I like sports, team sports too, but I've really gravitated more towards solo sports. So anything that I can train in, where I can train to do those solo sports and train by myself, but then also learn these other skills, or like it might help me with my yoga, it might help me with my balance, physical balance for I don't know what other sports, but maybe you're a gymnast or something. I don't know. Like it might transfer over to other sports that I'm just not aware of, and it seemed like a valuable product. But I only had one, you know. because I had previously purchased it for myself. So, but I didn't need to repair it or anything. But just with reselling in general, that would have been something that I could try to see if I could find and, resell them. I have like no interest in it really. It's not like something that I'm like enthusiastic about. Um, but I know they sell for at least the amount that I was selling it for. So it kind of depends what other people are willing to pay. You might find that max amount. But yeah, um you got to have data behind things, and some of these gurus, they act like they have data, and then it's like they don't. They don't have anything to go by, or they lie about it. And I'm not really trying to do that. I'm trying to like actually help people find what they might need. um so this is one method that people can use, find what they need. um I mean, I'm willing to talk about products like this, like products that I'm not going to sell, you know. Let me try to find the name of that board for someone who might be interested. um I think it's worth mentioning. Let me see my listings. It's called Swell. Swell. Um, so yeah, Swell. So those Swell balance boards, people are willing to buy them. Um, and I know that now. I did not know that before I sold any of them. I didn't know there was any local interest. Um, Now it's something that's big enough that you probably might not want to try to ship it, but I technically could have shipped it. I mean, I bought it off the internet. I think I bought it off Amazon way back, and somebody shipped it, and it was a pretty big box. Which is why I was glad I sold it in person, because if I didn't even put it to ship. Um, but yeah. Um, do I have anything else to say about repairing? I mean, it kind of just depends what you're repairing, honestly. But you got to make sure that you know how to repair it properly. You probably want to have some kind of return policy, like, and take your own footage, videos, and photo footage. So if somebody wants to return something to you, but then you realize there's other damage to it that was not there when you shipped it, um, and either it got damaged in the process, or if you give them like a week to return it, people are a little savvy, so sometimes they'll buy something, like, say if it is a guitar, and they're like, I have this, you know I want to play guitar at this bonfire. And so, say the bonfire's Friday, and they purchase it from you on Monday, and they have till the next Monday to request a return. And they purchase it, let's say they buy it on one Friday. It takes till Monday to ship to them. I don't know, I'm just throwing out days and numbers. Let's say it takes till Monday to get to them. They take from Monday through Thursday to learn whatever songs they're gonna play. They play it at that Friday bonfire, and then they're like, I don't want it anymore, and then they ship it back to you. They contact you Monday and put whatever reason why they want their return, and then they have to ship it back to you. And it's like, now you just lost that money. You lost the money on the shipping for the most. Well, you might not lose money on shipping if they're paying for shipping. Um, but yeah, you lost money, I guess, on the time if you repaired anything. So that kind of thing can get a little bit annoying. So returns, sometimes if you offer returns, it can be a bit of a hassle, because people kind of get a little scammy about it. You know, they're like, I only used it once, I don't want it anymore. It doesn't sound right or whatever. And it's like, well, if you know you repaired it and it is in perfect condition, just used, um, people will still come up with excuses sometimes just because they only needed it for like one thing, or you know whatever reason. They just wanted their money back because it was a pricey item, and then they're like, oh shoot, I need money, because I overspent. And that's one thing people do. Like, you'll notice it around the holidays and other times. Like, if you're selling things, people want returns, not necessarily because your items are bad, but because they're running out of money and they've got rent due, and now they're like, I got all the stuff that I bought for myself on Black Friday or whatever, and then you know they want their money back now because they overspent. It's not your product. That's just common though. I've noticed that around Black Friday that happens a lot. Um, but I hope this is valuable. Just wanted to talk about research, repairs, um, reselling from that angle. Um, and yeah, eBay is one of the better places, to check. Um, I'm not saying that if there's nothing selling on eBay that looks like something you're trying to sell, then it's not possible to sell it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, you can check eBay. It's going to give you a lot of information. I got to go make some lunch, and I got a meeting at 2 o'clock. So I'm going to log off of here. Had a good time in the sun and recording for you guys. And I got to get back to being busy. I took my little midday break here to get myself some nice vitamin D, and I feel a lot better having some sunlight and warmth and some outdoor beach time, pier time, checking out the skate park even though nobody was there. Of course, because there's like puddles and everything, and it's Friday before a holiday weekend, so. But the pier had free parking. Shout out to the pier having free parking. Like, I'm all about that. All right, guys, that's it for now. Keep on.